Yeah, so my story. Grew up in Ontario, seventh generation farmer, came out west to start writing books, I thought, and came across Tempology 101 in Vancouver, thought, oh, this is great, Reefer Madness sucks, let's tell the story. Moved to Victoria, and I met a woman that made cookies and helped AIDS patients. Dennis Perron was operating out of San Francisco at the time, this was in 1995. And I met AIDS patients that not only recovered using cannabis edibles, but would even go back to work and kind of come back to life again. And that was enough for me to realize that there was something critical in the edibles that were available, and topicals too. And so with her, I started up the Victoria Cannabis Buyers Club in January 1996, lived in a van, got a page and a pamphlet, and went from there. Took 5 years, got a store, got raided 3 times in 2002, ran for mayor the 3rd time, then got raided again in 2003, beat every single charge using various constitutional arguments. At the time, the MMAR was in effect in its very early days, and so there's lots of problems and flaws. So the case law that John Conroy and others were leading was invaluable to me and my arguments in court. And then continued on for several years. 2009, my bakery got raided, and I've heard of Owen Smith. I'm his boss. I was his boss. Still work with him very closely. He's on the board of directors and stuff. But we hooked up with Kurt Tusaw and filed a constitutional challenge. As many know, we won a unanimous decision at the Supreme Court. It was really instrumental in so many things. It was like the final straw in prohibition. The government sort of lost its steam at that point. They were losing argument after argument. Health Canada had literally argued that it was unsafe to use cannabis edibles, that smoking was the only safe way to go. They were really losing the whole prohibition kind of theme. And so at the same time, though, Bay Street in Toronto is like cannabis edibles. There's this whole, alternative market that we could be investing in and creating, and so they just turned on, and that certainly helped pressure Justin Trudeau and company to put legalization on the ballot, and what we should have happened. And so for recreational users, it's been decent. For the industry, when people come up to me here and say, I'm sorry what the government's doing, I'm like, I'm sorry you're dealing with the government. Because I'm pretty comfortable doing what I'm doing, I'm pretty good at it. But what's happening in the industry has been horrible, which is why from the beginning we couldn't comply. The 3 main reasons why were the 10 milligram limit on edibles. Like, my God, we have patients that use up to 1,000 milligrams a day to fight cancer. We have suppositories at 250 milligrams. And, it's inconceivable in the middle of an opioid crisis that they would have done something that effectively took these products off the shelves across the country. Because until legalization, patients had access easily through stores that were providing exceptional products in a very competitive market, and they ruined a beautiful thing that was really just starting to take off. And so the 10 milligram limit, especially with having fought with to the Supreme Court to make them legal, it was just unacceptable. From day one, we knew that there'd be another day in court. Just like when Parker came in, there had to be many struggles to help it growing and develop legally. So that was just the first step of many litigative actions. We sort of knew that. Anyhow, the other one that really, was stunning is the fact that while recreational stores have become legal and accepted and pushed forward, medical stores are not part of the program at all. And the medical marijuana program, since the beginning, has been this haphazard program that should have involved compassion clubs from the beginning, but they just wrote us off as these deviant lawbreakers that they don't even want to talk to while they create medical marijuana legislation, when we should have been the first ones at the table, and they designed and created it. Initially, their only real reason for not having medical storefronts was diversion. They were afraid that all the recreational users would try to get into the program. And so that's gone now with legalization. But still, even Shoppers Drug Mart got out of the medical marijuana program because it was just of no value to them. They couldn't, make enough money. and it's just incredible. There's one pharmacist in Ontario who's magically been able to sort of get a medical marijuana license, but even still, the limits on the products is just terrible in our, especially in the node. Anyhow, so we wouldn't comply. The third one is the smoking. We had a consumption space in our last lounge, or location. Fortunately, we don't yet in our new one, but we hope to. And that should be something that should be part and parcel with virtually like every location to purchase cannabis. As Mike Farner said earlier, right? That like people should be able to go and step outside and have a smoke. Well, they should be able to do that inside too. Like there's ways that it can be done and managed. Clearly, there's lots of other places around the world that are doing it. Like, we can't just keep our head in the sand and say it has to happen, in the corner or like out of sight or something. There can be indoor consumption spaces. We've had one for years, and that was something that we put in our exemption application we put forward to Health Canada. So what we figured we'd do is we would put in an application to Health Canada for an exemption based on those three things. And that Health Canada would eventually say no, we'd file a constitutional challenge against Health Canada, beat them up in court, and then we'd get an exemption from a judge, and then transition into the legal system somehow, years into it in a way that would hopefully be beneficial to our patients. Because if we had tried to transition earlier on, if we had survived, like virtually no other Compassion Club has, then if we had done it earlier, we probably would have gone bankrupt. So there's a lot of reasons for us to kind of wait until things are more mature, regulatory and otherwise, with the costs of the products have gone down substantially, although not enough for edibles, I must say. And so anyhow, we haven't complied. We put in the exemption application, but along the way, we've met this group called the Community Safety Unit. I guess most of you probably don't know them very well, but I'm getting to know them better than I'd like. And so, so we got raided November 19, and then again July 2020, and reopened after every raid. That's what I do. And got a lot of support from our Victoria City Council, unanimous support, like even the most conservative councillor realized we needed a license. We've gotten along the way the support from every drug policy researcher in British Columbia that studies drug policy and advocates to the government on all their other policy issues around harm reduction and stuff, because they see what we're doing as invaluable. Especially, I should put a shout out for Dr. Mary Lou. And so we've built this support along the way despite the raids. Then they decided that they'd fine us $6.5 million. In an interesting accounting scheme that they put together. Of course, I've got that in my offshore bank accounts, but I'm not letting them get it. So while we've been trying to work through what is virtually a kangaroo court, it can't be called anything less than what the government has set up in their bureaucracy, because literally the person that made the $6.5 million fine is the person that we appeal to say that that decision was wrong. And then after they make their decision that says, no, we were right in the first place, we can appeal to that very same person. Judge, jury, prosecution, like all in one little room. And so we've been waiting for that long process to follow through. And in the middle of all that, our building sold. Good times. The new landlords were not happy with us, gave us an eviction notice, forced us to get a new location. The new landlord got a threat of a $100,000 fine the day we moved in, and then 3 weeks later we got our first raid on a new location, which is our 8th raid in total. Some of my staff joke that we're going to hit 10 before we're done, but I'm hoping that that's the last one. And so what we're doing with our brilliant lawyers, Kirk and Jack Lloyd, is preparing to file in the next short time a constitutional challenge, which has been in the works for years, along with an injunction, which is a little trickier than the laws that we've been working our way through before. We've certainly got the Allard injunction as an example, and so that's encouraging. But there are different arguments that need to be made in this case. But ironically, the raid was something that to get an injunction we almost needed, in that one thing we have to prove is imminent threat. And so now that we've been raided and the government's acting so hostile towards us, we can prove that there's a threat to our organization that extends to the lives of our members, and therefore the court should intervene and grant us an exemption until the full constitutional hearing is over. Yeah, so that's my life. Meanwhile, I have the most incredible club in the world. Legalization has allowed them to purchase a lot more in recreational stores, and it's had our sales go down. It hasn't actually hurt our sales of our alternative products, our capsules. We have like 15 kinds of capsules in our own kitchen, and suppositories and creams and salves, things that people can't get anywhere else at near the price that we're charging. And so it's been an incredible journey, one that is by far not over yet. But we do hope to be able to transition into the legal system despite all the regulatory problems. We will do that, even if we got to bust a hole through the back wall and get in. That's what's going to happen. Thank you very much for that.
This is the best panel of the week, so we can support. Kelly, I'm going to come to you next, and then Jane, I think we need to hear your voice for the last word on the panel.